Morbidly beautiful radio. We horror.
Did you hear the one about the man who can't be destroyed? He was buried alive.
What more can you do to a human being? This is inhuman. He's gotta be crushed just under the weight of that much dirt.
He was set on fire.
What the hell is going on? Come on! Put down the cat! Get on fire!
They carried him away. But he keeps coming back. Don't be afraid. Be terrified.
As I lay me down to sleep, I pray my soul is mine to keep. My soul and never step outside this bed, never into all the evil. Now back from the dead.
Are you scared?
Be here.
And welcome to another episode of the Calling Hours Horror Podcast on Morbidly Beautiful Radio. Once again, it is I, your head undertaker, the dead man Michael Jones of MorbidlyBeautiful.com, Coughing Cuties magazine, and Digital Dead magazine. What's going on, people? On this episode, we will be discussing the films and career of actress, producer, and author Liane Langford. You may know her from A Blood Story in 2015, Beach Massacre at Kill Devil Hills in 2016, and she will be in the upcoming films Lake of Shadows and Like a Shadow. We will also be discussing the current state of the movie industry in the light of everything that's happening with Harvey Weinstein, and we'll talk just about filmmaking in general and what she feels like is missing from the genre, what she wants to see and what she hopes that other filmmakers are going to bring to the table. She is a true and tough survivor, and she has made a truly incredible comeback after a terrible medical hardship pertaining to her heart. She is witty and not afraid to tell it like it is, so this will certainly be an entertaining show with strong opinions, with someone that I really do admire and respect in the industry. So make sure to stay tuned at about the 8:30 time slot for that to begin. In our Digital Dismemberment Spotlights this evening, we will be covering Scream Factory's Blu-ray releases of Q the Winged Serpent as well as Dead Souls. We will also be featuring 3 bands in our Metal Massacre Spotlight this evening. In fact, let's get to our first one. The name of the band is Agathodaimon, the CD is Black and the Angel, and the song is Banner of Blasphemy. welcome back. You just heard the band Agathodaimon. The name of the CD was Black and the Angel, and the song was Banner of Blasphemy. Agathodaimon was a gothic symphonic black metal band from Mainz, Germany that was active from 1995 until 2014. If you would like to find out more information about this band, where to pick up their merchandise, and if there's ever hopes of a reuniting tour, make sure to head on over to www.agathodaimon.de for more info. And don't forget that coming up at about 8:30, we're going to go into our feature interview with actress, producer, and author Liane Langford. But before that, it's time for some digital dismemberment. And in our first Digital Dismemberment Spotlight for the evening, we're going to be covering Scream Factory's Blu-ray and DVD release of Q, the Winged Serpent. The film was directed by legendary Larry Cohen, produced by Samuel Z. Arkoff, Larry Cohen, Dick DeBona, Salah M. Hassanin, Paul Kurta, Peter Sabiston, and Don Sandberg. Special effects were handled by Dennis Egger, Steve Neal, and Rick Stratton. The cast includes Michael Moriarty, Candy Clark, David Carradine, Richard Roundtree. The Blu-ray was released by Shout Scream Factory in 2013. To give you the premise, and I know I'm not going to say this right, so fans of the film, please forgive me. Its name is Quetzalcoatl, and I know that's not right. A dragon-like Aztec god that is summoned to modern-day Manhattan by a mysterious cult. But just call it Q, because that's all you'll be able to say before it tears you apart. Roosting within the top of the Chrysler Building, this fearsome monster begins raining blood from the bodies of window washers, construction workers, and rooftop sunbathers alike onto the streets of New York. Director Larry Cohen, known for It's Alive and Maniac Cop, proves himself to be amongst the most creative, original, and intelligent American horror film directors with this bizarre masterwork, and that's quoted from TV Guide. The fantastic cast includes Michael Moriarty of Law & Order, who's fun to watch, is quoted by Robert Ebert, as a small-time thief who finds the nest of the creature. And Richard Roundtree, famous for playing Shaft, and David Carradine, of course, of Kill Bill, as New York's finest, hot on the serpentine tail of the bloodthirsty Q. Now, we'll just go ahead and say from here on out there will be spoilers, so please be aware of that. Larry Cohen had me hooked well before I saw this film in my youth. Having already seen It's Alive from 1974, It Lives Again from 1978, and The Stuff 1985, but well before viewing God Told Me To, 1976, there was 1982's Q, the Winged Serpent. Stop-motion entertainment was highly interesting to me at that time, and watching Kwai Chang Caine from Kung Fu, David Carradine's character, of course, from the TV series, and Shaft, Richard Roundtree's character from the Shaft movies, chasing down a murderous Aztec dragon god and a mysterious killer ritualistically butchering people was high entertainment. The film certainly had the look and feel of an old-school giant creature feature that dominated the genre scene from the 60s and 70s, but it also does a nice job of bringing that dirty and gritty film quality from the Grindhouse days. There are stories out there that say Bruce Willis was interested in playing the role that David Carradine played, but at the time of filming, Cohen was unsure of Willis's drawing power and went with Carradine as Detective Shepard. Now, as more on the film, a window washer is washing and leering into the window of a young lady at work. He continues to knock and wipe, annoying her while she is on the phone until we hear a prehistoric screech and the washer's head disappears, his decapitated body hanging from its harness and spraying blood all over the window. Detective Shepard and Powell arrive and speculate as to how it happened and where the head is. Next, we see Quinn having lunch with some associates, planning a robbery for the next day. Powell arrives on another crime scene where the victim was skinned and wondered what is going on. We next see a young lady walking up to the roof for some topless sunbathing, not knowing she's being watched by a man on another roof and in his Q circles overhead. Suddenly, it flies down and snatches her off the rooftop, dripping blood and gore all over the people walking by in the streets, creating chaos. While all of this is happening, Quinn tries to get a legit job as a piano player in a bar that his girlfriend works at, but the bartender does not like his style and turns him down. Shepard comes in for a drink and we see Quinn, and Quinn insults him before leaving the bar. We next see Quinn in a car with his associates as they hand him a gun and force him to take part in a jewelry store robbery. Something goes wrong and shots are fired. Quinn runs out with a bag of diamonds and tries to get away, but is hit by a car and loses them. Terrified, he runs to his lawyer's office for help and no one is there. He sets off an alarm and runs up through the building and finds a giant nest and egg at the top. Stunned as he goes to leave, he also finds a dead body picked clean of all the flesh. Now extremely terrified, he runs back to his girlfriend's apartment and tries to tell her what he saw, but she thinks he is drunk. In the meantime, Q flies over a construction site and snatches a worker for a snack, his bloody helmet falling to the pavement, and as Q flies over the city, it drops a severed foot and more blood across the city. Shepard is trying to track leads, and he begins to find out about ritual murders and a possible cult connection with the murder of the skinned victim found earlier. We later see another ritual performed, this time because a body is washed up and has had its heart removed. Shepard tries to float his theory to Powell, but he seems to doubt it. Another construction worker is killed as the newspapers begin to speculate on whether witnesses are creating a hoax or if what they are seeing is real as Shepard continues to dig for clues. Quinn is visited by his associates and he winds up taking them to the building where the nest is. He gets them to go up the ladder to the nest, convincing them that the diamonds he had are up there. Instead, Q is there and messily devours them while Quinn rationalizes to himself that it was self-defense. We later see a bunch of people around a swimming pool, and as a young man jumps in, Q snatches him out of the water and flies off with him. Quinn is later arrested for the jewelry robbery and tries to leverage what he knows about Q and the nest to get out of the charges and make money off of the whole thing. After much bickering with the police in the city, they agree and Quinn leads Powell and Shepard to the nest. Shepard machine guns the egg, but Q escapes and begins to go on a rampage, including snatching up and killing Powell just before he can catch the person responsible for the ritual murders. Can Shepard stop Q and catch the killer before he finishes his master plan? Does Q escape to wreak more havoc on the city? You're going to have to watch to find out. Bonus features for this disc include an audio commentary with writer, producer, and director Larry Cohen, which is new for this release. There's also a theatrical trailer and a teaser trailer. Now, this disc is a one-disc set. The format is NTSC. It is color with an R rating. The aspect ratio is 1080p high-definition widescreen, 178:1. Now, with this title, Scream Factory has brought us a forgotten genre classic to add to our Blu-ray collections. My primary concern for a film like this is, from its time period, is the transfer. And while not as crystal clear as some of Shout Factory's other titles, the film certainly does present better picture quality than the 2003 Blue Underground release or the 1998 Anchor Bay edition. The sound is also nice, though it seems a bit low in spots. My only gripe with this release is the lack of any real special features. While we do get a new audio commentary with writer, director, producer Larry Cohen, as well as a teaser and theatrical trailer, that is all. The Blue Underground release also contained a poster and still gallery, a Larry Cohen bio, and was a DVD-ROM that showed Q memorabilia. While it would have been nice to have had those special features added, I can't complain too much as this title is not at the same price point as many of Shout Factory's more loaded Blu-rays. Now, while not as loaded as other films they have released, it is nice to see the film in high def and to be able to relive the days of my childhood watching the skies for prehistoric birds. Shout Scream Factory once again shows why it is the standard bearer for Blu-ray horror releases. Overall, I rate the movie a 3 out of 5. I give the Blu-ray a 10 out of 10. Like I said, I just wish it had had a few more special features. So make sure to head on over to shoutfactory.com to pick up your copy of the Blu-ray and DVD release of Larry Cohen's Q, the Winged Serpent. Coming up in just a few moments, we're going to go into our feature interview with actress, producer, and author Liane Langford. But before that, we're going to go into our second Metal Massacre Spotlight for the evening. The name of the band is Witty. The CD is Lawless Darkness, and the song is Lawless Darkness. And welcome back. You just heard the band Witty. The CD was Lawless Darkness, and the song was Lawless Darkness. Lawless Darkness is the fourth studio album by Swedish black metal band Witty, released through Season of Mist on the 7th of June 2010. The cover art was made by an artist named Bilek, I cannot even begin to pronounce his first name, who also painted the Wild Hunt cover art. To find out more about Witty, where they're touring, to pick up their merchandise and their CDs, make sure to visit www.templeofwatane.com. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our feature interview.
And you will face the sea of darkness, and all therein that may be explored.
And welcome to our feature interview this evening. And tonight I have an actress that has been a part of my Deadly Beauty series twice, once on Horror Society, once on Morbidly Beautiful. And that is actress and producer Liane Langford. Liane, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So happy to be here. Do we call you Morbid Mike or Deadly Mike?
You can call me whatever you want. A lot of people call me Dead Man, so whatever works best for you.
I can just call you Dead. Dead Man MC. MC Dead.
See, I like it. I like it.
Got it. Can we hashtag that shit?
We can certainly hashtag it. Well, it's been.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, it's no problem. It's been a long time coming. I've wanted to have you on the show, and now that I've brought it back to Morbidly Beautiful, I thought this was an absolutely great opportunity to have you on and talk about all the things that you do. Not only as an actress and a producer, but just general things. And I guess the first place to start is, how did you first become involved with acting? Where did the passion come from for you?
Well, first, before I answer that really great question, because it's just so simple, I wanted to let you know, MC Dead, that Luke Grenier wrote me, because he's just on top of everything. I love that man.
He is. He's a great guy.
Great actor. Yeah, but he's one of my, he's my little smurf. But anyway, I love him. And he's the one that sent me your link going, hello, that's how I'm here tonight. It's because of Luke. Because I didn't know. I didn't see it.
Yeah, Luke's a great guy, and he's someone else I need to have on the show. And I know that you've worked with him several times, and we'll definitely talk about that.
For sure, yeah. So anyway, I wanted to, tell him I love him, and thank you. But
thank you, Luke.
To answer the question, yeah. And she does in the house. Okay. So, where did the passion come from, right?
Right.
Okay, so actually, I don't remember a time in my life that I didn't have that. I mean, when I was really little, I had that. I was hooked on dancing and being in charge one of your articles, but we used to put on these shows, my brothers and I, in the garage. It was like 4 or 5, and they would literally charge people like maybe a nickel, I think, or a dime, to come into this garage and see our made-up horror show, which used ketchup or whatever they thought they could scare you with.
Nice.
And it just stuck. I was raised in a family that was in the industry, so I was never not around it. And I loved it so much. And being around something like this, or maybe not, it's possible that it wouldn't, but for me it really had a huge influence on what I did have a passion for. So I'd have to say just being really influenced by the things around me, my family, art, music, my mother, everything.
Now, we look at your IMDb page, and we all know how IMDb can be, and we'll get to that in a second. But the first film that's on your credit list is you as a producer for a short called Decimation. Now, when you first broke into the industry, was being a producer what you wanted to do, or did you really want to get more into the acting?
When you have or any of us for that matter, like you for instance, when you have a wide skill set and you can pretty much, well, no, that's not true. I could never be a surgeon or a banker, or I would suck at all that. But as far as production goes, that just fell in my lap early on. So when I was an art dealer and director, you're producing art shows and group shows all the time. So I think production is very important. One of the things in production that I find is very important is knowing how to delegate, get your team working, and everybody working together. I think it's really, really important. So no, it wasn't. It just sort of fell in my lap as something I was good at.
No, I get that. I mean, it was almost the same situation for me. When I got into actually doing effects work and producing and all that, it just kind of fell in my lap. It was kind of like right place, right time.
Right. And we have so much in common. I'm sure we could talk for a long time. My Uncle John, was a huge executive at Universal, and my Uncle Donald was FX, and my brother David is still FX.
Oh, nice.
Retired. So we're talking a lot of experience in that area. But I think before I even came back to film, it's kind of like everything through my life, whatever was sort of asked of me, I would just do, and I would grow from there. And it was always artistically, I think, based for me, or the foundation for everything I do is artistically based. So, I produced a homeless benefit, and created a fashion show around that.
Oh, wow.
So we did that on the Monterey Peninsula, which they ignore homeless people here, but we didn't. And that was in the 90s. And then September 11 hit, 9/11, pardon me. And I went to New York and put together a 9/11 benefit about a month after, at our gallery. And then Katrina hit.
Oh, man.
And then I went to New Orleans on Royal Street to the Katrina benefit. So I do know how to put things together. And I've done huge benefit, art benefits. And I think that if you have your common sense, artistic feelings, creativity, passion, love of people, love of art, and are able or willing, I think willing's the word, willing to let the ideas come to you that would spark other people to feel good about themselves. Give them something to do. Let them grow. It's cool. I can't say, yeah. So no, a long way around that question. But, I didn't always want to be a producer. I always wanted to be a dancer, singer, and actor.
Well, and then we moved to 2015, and you were in a movie directed by Joe Hollow, and
Yeah.
you were in. There was quite an interesting cast in that. We have Camden Toy, Mindy Robinson, Deborah Lamb, Melanie Robel, and then, sadly, the more recently passed Robert Zadar.
That was his last film, yeah.
Yeah, and, Linnea Quigley, all on, a Blood Story. Kind of tell us how you became involved with that, and we'll just start with that. How you became involved with Blood Story, first of all.
I had started modeling again. It was actually 2013, I believe, and 14 when we started getting that together. Deborah Lamb had been producing. She was she was executive producer of The Blood Story. And she said, you want to, have a three-way conference call with Joe Hollow. And I'm like, oh my God, that'd be great. So we spoke. Joe got to know me. Actually, Joe wrote me first and asked if I would look at the script. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And he goes, I don't know anything about you, but I can give you this small part. Because they don't know what I'm dealing with, obviously.
Right.
But I ended up helping production. This is where the skill set comes in. Wardrobe. I was his assistant, officially assistant to the director. I was actor. What else did I do? I would actually dress the stage for him. Like, he asked me to come in and look through the lens. He was so incredibly generous with me. Like, come and look at this, Liane. Like, he really wanted to show me what he was doing. It was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And he would say, well, do you think the lavender sheets should be on top of the black or the black on top of the lavender? And I said, no, it needs to go this way. Let me dress it for you. I'll dress the set. Just hang on 1 second. And I did everything. I painted the walls. I painted the bas reliefs. I made the Caesar statue look very menacing in that room. And so it was an incredible experience meeting Linnea, who is so darling. I love her. I do. I just think she's incredible. Everybody that I met had so many different. I also cooked, which I hated, by the way. And he wanted to give me a craft credit. And I remember my Uncle Donald saying, again, the craft credit's not bad. That's good. I'm like, no. So it was crazy because I hate to cook. And I'm no good at it. I don't use my oven. Seriously, I don't do any of that shit. And Joe's like, can you? And then you have the actors. I want donuts. I'm a vegetarian. It's like. Right. It was crazy. But I loved it. It's one of my fondest memories.
Now, you bring up doing all of those different things on set. And again, I guess this is the commonality between you and I. I try to do the same thing. I've wrangled pets and dogs and, helped set up and lights and, rigging and all of these things, and I think that's kind of a rarity anymore. For you, do you see it as an opportunity to make yourself just more well-rounded on set when you volunteer and help to do some of those things?
Mm-hmm. I made my daughter, she had an internship at the Forest Theater. She's a mezzo-soprano. And I was in theater, and I did costume and makeup and everything. And I had my daughter learn how to be a supernumerary, do the chorus behind the, backstage so people could hear it in the theater, out in the audience. Paint the stage. Yeah, I totally agree. That if you have the ability, like, there are pictures of me painting bas reliefs. That's because I've been painting since I was 9 years old.
Mm.
So I know, plus doing makeup, I know how to create something through paint, like faux painting. So that's a skill set.
Yes.
You also have to have the skill set to realize it's a dark red room and you've got a white cord hanging down the camera's going to see. So you have to have sort of eyes in the back of your head to know, okay, we need to paint that because you're going to see that, or you're in the way of your own shadow, or, yeah, I do. I don't know if everybody's up for the task of doing that if they volunteer, but I think it's good to volunteer.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
Good at it. Right. You know, but Michael Rodriguez, one of my directors and dear friend, there's another person of tremendous talent and skill set. You know, and I know you're probably like me. I'm a terrible snob. Because when you know better, you know better. Come
Right.
on.
No, you're right.
You know? Yeah, I mean, sorry.
No, it don't.
Bitch, please.
Now, you had mentioned, you know, one of my great laments was I never had the opportunity to interview Robert Zadar. He passed away before I got a chance to get a hold of him.
Yeah.
You know, do you have any fond memories of him on the set?
Oh, I have memories of him after the set. I adored that man. He comes from old Hollywood, like I call it old Hollywood. We were talking one night because my brother David worked on Tango and Cash.
Ah.
And so I always am able to strike up some kind of commonality or say, oh yeah, I heard about, Sylvester Stallone demanded that he got to stand on a box with face with, because they were not the same height.
Oh, Robert was huge.
Sylvester Stallone, I am not a fan of that. He's an idiot. Anyway, someone's going to really give me a death threat, but maybe not. I have real fond memories of his sense of humor and talking about old Hollywood. And he came up to me and he handed me his card at one point during the filming and said, that's my personal card. He goes, I've given that to one other person here.
Wow.
And you've got something. He goes, go talk. Okay, so after that, for a long time, up until he passed, we would talk on the phone a lot.
Mm.
Say, I think you should call this director. This is what I did. Or he'd call me up and he'd go, hey, sweet cheeks, why don't you come to Dubuque? Sweet cheeks.
I've always...
It was just like that.
I never heard a bad thing about him. Never.
No, I don't think you would ever hear anything. I adored him.
Oh man, he's, like I said, that's one of my great laments is I never got to actually interview him, but I will do something on him on Morbidly Beautiful. I feel like I need to do a retrospective on his films now that we're talking about him again.
Yeah. But here's the really great opportunity now, Michael, is that you don't have to miss that again. You can find somebody that really means something to you and don't let that pass by.
Oh, well, I agree, and I try to make that's what I'm trying to do now, especially with the podcast, is try to get all of these people that I've enjoyed their work and just the questions I want to ask them, and and you're certainly on that list, and I'm glad we finally got to you. So now,
that's so sweet of you to say. I think you should get Michael for sure. I hate to say it, but when I see talent, I'm really, really excited about this. Because I think, and Joe Hollow, you should definitely interview Mark Hansen. People that are really doing something. And what I mean by that is when you look at Joe Hollow films, from Joe Hollow films, you'll see Tony Todd, who I adore.
Yes.
Tony. I've met some incredible people who I really, really respect. Joe is amazing in that. Why does he get these great names in his films? Because he does it right.
Yes.
There's a reason why. Michael Rodriguez is the same thing. You look at Michael's films, Lamb-Seed, Night of the Sea Monkey. He's got 3 films coming, which I'm in one, by the way. And we have to talk about the Anime Con, too. But you look at Michael has an incredible artistic sensibility in his films and respect for filmmaking. That's why he gets the people he has in his films.
And it's nice to hear actors and actresses talk about good directors, good producers, because we have so much of this controversy going on in Hollywood, and we'll get to that in a second. But I definitely wanted to ask you, with Blood Story, that, you brought up Luke earlier, and that was, according to IMDb, that was the first film that you and Luke worked on together. Now,
I met him. I fell madly in love with him and wanted to steal his boots. And all through the shoot, I just went, turn your head, it's all over. Because I was just obsessed over his boots. I thought when he walked in, this was just okay, wowzers. And when I saw him on film, because Joe would let me look at things, I just went, wow, I'm scared. This guy was so intense in A Blood Story. He's also a really incredible screenwriter. You know that, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah, Luke and I have been buddies on Facebook and chat every once in a while, and you're right, in addition to recommending you, he's always been one of those guys when I put out requests for interviews and stuff. He's one of those people that sends 20 people to me and go, interview this one, interview this one, interview this one. So yeah, Luke is one of those guys, I think, that's kind of unsung in a lot of ways to, the broader masses of the genre.
Yeah, I think his writing is romantically dark and poetic. It's like Edgar, I talked to him about this. It's very Edgar Allan Poe. It's very melancholic, but beautiful and dark and creepy. So want to go there. It's like Ghost, it's just odd. It's but you're drawn into it. And I'm hoping to do, I don't know who's slated to direct it, but he has a film out, and it's on the IMDb, and I know I'm going to say it wrong because everything's Blood Massacre, Like a Shadow is a film that Donna Hamlin, who I have so much respect for as an actor, she's amazing. We're going to be doing Luke's film together. So this will be my first Luke Bernier film I'll be doing.
That will be sweet. I said that will be sweet. I'm definitely looking forward to that when it comes out.
Yeah. So that's how I met Luke. And Luke has always been incredibly supportive to so many of us. Things that we don't think about, Luke thinks about. This is what I'm talking about. You and I were discussing this earlier, that, it's not a competition.
Right.
You have to do the best you can as an actor doing your craft and try to pick really good work, because I think things are just changing now.
I think they are too, and I think this is a good jumping point onto all of this. We have all of this turmoil going on in Hollywood, with Harvey Weinstein, names like Kevin Spacey being brought up. We could go on and on with all of these names. You're out there in the middle of it. You work with people in all parts of the industry. From what you've seen,
from the beginning, yeah.
How is this changing everything, and how do you feel like it's helping the independent directors and producers to get more notice now?
I think that big Hollywood, little Hollywood, micro-budget, indie film, different genres, I've been involved with and grew up with so many aspects of what we're talking about there. And I believe that there's always a huge shakedown. Because you've got to have a curve. You have to. So there's something that I noticed, and I read an article, and this is a great example of what I'm talking about. John Krasinski directed a film and his wife in the film, and it's called A Quiet Place. It's coming out on the 5th. This was a really incredible, it's only, an hour and 30 minutes long. I didn't think he had it in him until I saw that trailer. This is amazing. And then I read an article related to A Quiet Place that said that, and this is true, Twilight Zone was the stepping ground or jumping off point for many great actors. They would do the Twilight Zone. They do the Outer Limits. And they would leave that genre, right?
Right.
But then we had Stephen King in the 80s. We had John Carpenter. We had, the genre was there. Aliens made it incredible, another level, okay? So what's happening in Hollywood is they are taking a cue from Grindhouse, from these derivative stories. Now, A Quiet Place, when you see the trailer, you say, oh, there's a derivative there. Because everything is a derivative for the inspiration or the creativity of something maybe new. So that's what I think is happening. And in Hollywood right now, they're going back to it. So we've got some work to do in our world.
Sure.
In our little group. Because we're letting it, pardon me, we're letting it slide with garbage. And I'm just going to be really upfront. If you're going to do this type of work, strive to do the best sound, the best cinematography, the best, whatever you can do.
Right.
Do it.
No, I agree with you. And do you feel like, because Netflix has become such a player, all of this video on demand, do you feel like that's changed the dynamic of filmmaking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Technology has changed the dynamic of filmmaking. When I was little, CGI didn't exist.
Right.
So my brother, I like to tell this story about my brother David, who had to fix the alien, the xenomorph, is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
What was it called? The actual, okay. So you've got H.R. Giger's beautiful element, Syrian element. It's going to kill everybody. And it won't work. So they call in my brother David, fix this, we don't know what to do because the teeth won't come out. And it's like a $350,000 gadget.
Oh,
for
man.
back in the 70s, it's like, really, that's expensive.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so my brother tells me like it is, right? He goes, well, I go, what did you do? He goes, well, I go in, I look at this thing, I get some, monofilament, some glue that they want to use, and a half plunger, cheek plunger, and I tape all this stuff together, and I tie it together with monofilament, and I use the plunger and push the alien's teeth through. So we have to figure it out.
Right.
So, and now we have all this technology, you see. And I think we should be striving with that at our fingertips to do really well in our genre.
Right.
It's probably like right behind us going, hey, we're going to go back and do this some more. We've discovered we want to go back and do some more of this. And they've got, their micro budgets are $5 million.
Right. I would kill to work on a project that had that kind of budget.
Right. So what's the answer? What is it that we do now? Because I think we're in a place where we have incredible creative opportunities now, or questions to ask ourselves, or a new door to walk through.
Sure.
Now, Michael Rodriguez, I loved, and that's the reason the story came up about Alien, was because Michael Rodriguez used monofilament in our little short. He likes to use old school effects.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I'm the same way. I have a very hard time when I watch a film. The second I notice CG, it completely takes me out of the film. I cannot help it. And, and I understand the frustrations on the creative end and, sometimes the choices producers and directors have to make because of timing, but it's little things like that can make or break a film. And I'm with you. I wish more people had that worry and their concern. It's more about, I made a film. It doesn't matter. It's out there. I'm with you. And I've worked on my fair share of I'm not afraid to admit it. None of the films that I've worked on are high caliber, see them in Hollywood type films, but I'm still proud of them. And you're right.
You should be proud of them. And here's the difference between, because I knew that might be a little sting for everybody. Like, we're doing the best we can, Liane, and you're such like a bitch. Hello? Such a bitch. You know, and that's true. Because I don't want to hold back on what I feel or what I think. Nor do I think that directors and creative should do that either, because everybody's walking their own walk. They're walking that road. They're learning. But I really feel as a snob, cinephile, whatever you want to say, bitch, that, well, it's true, come on, that it's time to see something new. It's time. And I can see, we used to call them the standouts, you know, in the art world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could pick the artists that were going to be big and ones that weren't just needed to go somewhere. They were not in their, you know, they were still formulating.
Now, I think part of it is, too, going beyond the CG part, do you feel like, and I'm not talking about elected officials when I say politics, okay? But do you feel like politics might be an issue now that it's something that's holding back producers and filmmakers because they're afraid to take chances? What's that?
Because of the Me Too movement?
Well, not just the Me. I mean, there are not just the Me Too. I mean, there are hundreds of movements. If you look at, and I realize that times change, but if you look at,
I think we're going backwards a little bit, but yeah, I'm looking for a change. I think there's change in our field. Yeah, definitely. I think there's change.
Well, the point that I was going to bring up is that if you look at horror films from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and the portrayals of certain characters or jokes that you could tell or tropes that you could use that used to be acceptable in our genre aren't so much anymore.
Yeah. You mean what's politically correct? Even that's passe now. You know, that was politically correct was what, in the 80s, I think? Or 90s?
Yeah, I mean,
politically, quote-unquote, correct.
Sure.
I don't even think we know anymore. I think that there's so much chaos that we have to go with our own compass and not be afraid to express something that might be difficult for people or offensive. You know, I have opinions about films that I think are just really bad, stupid films. But I never look at film, well, that's a racist film. You know, I just don't. I'm trying to think about that. I just don't. I'm glad to see more women in film.
Yes.
But that seems rather expected, isn't it? You know, and being very charming and expected by saying that. But that's a fact, all the same.
Well, I mean, to me, you know, and I've said this numerous times, both in writing and on the podcast, you know, because we just came out of Women in Horror Month, but
I know, I was one of them. That's this bitch.
Well, but to me, you know, the ability to make a good movie is not just based, to me, on someone's gender. You know, a man or a woman can make a good movie. To me, none of that matters. I just find it funny that certain tropes now are only acceptable when they're used by particular groups. You know, and I think it's interesting. I mean, I kind of hope, you know, I remember the days of when you didn't like what was on TV, you changed the channel. If you didn't like what was on the radio, you changed the station. If you didn't like a book, you didn't read it. Nowadays, when you have that, people stage mass protests and people's careers get ended over stuff like this.
I understand. I think because, again, we're evolving and we need to keep up, catch up, because you know, I've been around the studio as a little girl, and I've been couched a couple of times with my agent, my modeling agent in Hollywood, send me out for an audition for commercial or modeling. And I was 14 and 15, and I've been in situations that were deeply uncomfortable, that were even scary,
Mm-hmm.
Looking back. I think that it has to be, I think Hollywood is very sensational. I think that, you got to get on board with everything in Hollywood. So you can't ignore me too.
Right.
You can't.
And
whether they should have done it back then, no, because it ruins careers when you open your mouth. I know that for a fact.
And let me clarify. I agree with the Me Too movement. People like Weinstein should be thrown under the jail.
It's really sad to me because I think he's brilliant. But if you're going to behave like that, isn't it just a little cliche? You're making men very cliche.
Right. No, and I agree. I hate it that, an asshole like that makes the rest of us guys look like, the bad guys when most of us aren't.
But you're not all the bad guys. And we have to remember as women, this isn't the burning times. This isn't something where we're going out to find, Me Too. I think we need to move forward again. I'm here tonight with you, and you and I discussed this as well, how important it is and what technology is actually doing is creating superstars where you're not a star. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, superstar. You're not. You're 20 years old, you've got an IT account, so that makes you somehow you're a celebrity, sub-celebrity. And I'm looking at this stuff and I'm going, Michael, have you seen, I just discovered this, by the way, vloggers that are like 19 and 20 years old vlogging their relationships and their breakups. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
No, I have not found any of this yet.
Kidding me. Okay. So Joel McHale, I guess, he did a compilation of these, and I thought I like pee in my pants. Okay, so I decide, well, I'm going to look this up. Lo and behold, tons and tons of very sage 20-year-olds. Now, I understand they are incredible people, and they're leading the way for new gun laws, but you're also acting like freaking idiots going on there and vlogging. It's a relationship vlog. And also, you're putting live your breakup. So I'm listening to this girl, it's like 2 minutes of it, and she's got this like slideshow, and she's crying, and she's saying, no matter what, she's never let anybody, she's giving advice. And going, oh, thank you, on my head. And then the music is this love song, but it's like a chipmunk.
Oh, no.
The chipmunk? Because otherwise she'd get tagged for using something she's not supposed to use. So I'm trying to listen to her. You can't hear her over the chipmunk singing. It's really intense breakup song. So I got up and went, okay, wow. What do we do? Because it's true.
It's kind of sad.
Social media is being used for people that don't have talent, that shouldn't be doing these things, but they're allowed to because it's a free country, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's a valid point. I mean, I make the argument that just because you can buy a digital camera doesn't necessarily mean you should be working in the industry.
I agree 110%.
You know?
I believe that we have to find, like I said, everybody has a road, but where I'm coming from, okay, personally, let's put it that way, because I don't want to, listen, everybody should be allowed to do what they want to do creatively. If you want to finger paint,
finger paint,
but you're not poet. Everybody says the child can do, but there's a difference between finger painting and poet.
Sure.
And if you have the intelligence, you understand why Pollock is not finger painting. If you don't, you finger paint. Because you're not able to step up yet.
Well,
Does that make sense to anybody here?
It makes sense to me.
You have to be able to step up and learn, and step up and have difficulty creating. because that's how you're going to get where you're going.
Oh,
Strive together.
agreed 100%. If you don't, I've always said, it doesn't matter how many films I may work on in my career or anything like that. Every time I step into a project, I learn something new. You can't go in with the attitude that you know everything, because you don't.
You'll never know everything. You're always, because there's always going to be some synchronistic thing or some knowledge you learn. Like, I'm learning how to let go. It's very difficult when you're acting. If you can see someone acting, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm.
If you sense an actor acting, no. So for me, it's important to, I'm doing the squirrel monologue right now, and I'm practicing that, and I can do a great impression of Jessica Lange doing the squirrel monologue, which is going to be really hard doing it without her, but I'm going to do it. And I think we should just continue to figure out how and where we fit and what level we fit in.
I like it.
Yeah. And stop this bullshit. Excuse me, I swear a lot. Stop this bull that we're all in competition. And you know what? At your age.
Well, that's...
We really have a hard time with older women trying to look. It's unfortunate in our group. And I find that our group, which is interesting, our genre, our group of people, and our little world here in the horror, are like cliques.
Oh, yes.
I didn't realize that until like a few months back.
Oh, yeah. It's very much a clique. Especially in the horror genre. I mean, there are definitely levels. I agree, and I don't necessarily agree with the term, but yes, there's definitely, if you want to call it a hierarchy in the genre.
I don't think it's a hierarchy, but see, here's the, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but here's the thing about that. It's not a hierarchy. These are crappy people. And yet they sort of these clips. It doesn't matter if you're high or low, great value, whatever you are, there tends to be, that I'm finding out, groups of people hanging with groups of people.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, well, how do we learn anything if we're not reaching out, doing something different? Or, I don't know, maybe I'm just.
No, it's a valid point. I mean, if you don't ever work with other people with other ideas, you can never expound your boundaries. I agree 100%.
Yeah, I really do. And yet, I definitely have tremendous respect for some the filmmakers and screenwriters and directors. And I also have experience with people that are very, very incredible in our industry. Big film studios, But how do we, indie films, I remember when indie films first started. Remember that? And they would always go to festivals, and I missed that.
Yes.
And the idea that indie film was sort of this really cool, almost hipster, out of the box, out of your world, was very intriguing.
I can't argue with you. It was the same way. The first couple films that I worked on, it was like, you're right, it was like out of the box. It was, oh my God, how can we make this work? Yeah, I get that. That's the adrenaline that I thrive on when I work on a project.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I did want to let you know that I'm doing my first convention in May.
Oh. Where?
I'm very excited. With Philip Table. It's the Anime Con. The Tahoe Anime Con.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this incredible, it's like everything. Film festival, like we were discussing that. So film festival, art, it's everything. It's not just anime. So you have a lot of people that are really, they should definitely check into it. It's in Tahoe at Harvey's Casino and Hotel. And it's May 11th,
Oh, nice. Well, tell us a little bit more. Well, tell us a little bit more about that project then, so people can get an idea.
It was so much fun. When you can put 5 actors, if you look on IMDb, you're probably better at it than I am to see who's Tino is in that. I don't have my IMDb yet. Let's see here. 13. Hold on. Sorry, fellas.
No, sir. I'm not finding that listed on here. Let me go directly to Michael's page and see if it's listed there.
See, there. I know Lake of Shadows is that's another film. That's strange. Probably, I don't know why it's not on here. But in any event, he did an old school homage to Alien.
Mm-hmm.
And he did an incredible job. I mean, we had this little space to work in. All night. We filmed all night in Fresno, overnight, until like 5 in the morning. We went on set 3. And it was a very simple cast. And we just had an incredible time. And we laughed. There was no drama. There was nothing to look at that was, that people have a tendency to go into situations and whatever, there's drama or there's whatever it is, problems. This was like the most fun I've ever had. It was just so great. And that film's going to be, and I think Lake of Shadows, we're going to all be at the Tahoe Anime Con in May, featuring, and we're going to be screening Terror Station 13.
Okay.
Which is a short, and it was a gift that Michael did for all of his fans for Halloween, so they can see the movie for free.
Very nice.
So we'll all be there signing posters. We'll have all of his DVDs, and what else? I will be dressed as Captain Winger, as my character, because there's a lot of cosplay people at this convention. So I'm very excited about it.
I might have to see if I can find a way out there for that one.
You should. I mean, we're like really excited. So Tina Tamara and Tyler Gallant, who I really adore, all these people. Sophia, honey, terrible. Lonnie Pelly was in it. She's a comic. And let's see, Lupe, Tino's wonderful wife, she was there. Sophia, I'm trying to find her because Sophia Alexandra is an amazing special effects artist. I just want to say, as far as old school, she's amazing. And then we had Caesar, Zamora was in it too. So I think I got everybody. I hope so. If I didn't, I'm sure I'll pay. But Michael's one of these people, and Joe's the same way. They really work with their actors and what's around them.
Now, let me ask you about another. What's that?
He's always smiling, Michael, laughing. He's incredible.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm looking over the list of people that you worked with on Lake of Shadows, and I mean, I've interviewed a lot of these people. I'm just, it's amazing to see.
Again, right? Those names.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Why? Why do you see those names? Now you can see big names in other directors' rosters and on their films, but again, is it a good film? Is it interesting to me what's happening right now?
Well, I mean,
we're having a shakedown. Yeah.
One of my favorite actresses out there right now is Sarah French. I mean, I've known Sarah from the beginning of her career, and I'm glad, to see her working with other great talented people such as yourself as well. So
the thing about Sarah, that I haven't worked with Sarah, even though we've been in the same films, and Massacre Beach.
Mm-hmm.
She was in that film, but I was the LA team, where she was the North Carolina team.
Yeah, it was funny. I was supposed to go out on set to cover that when Sarah was a part of it, and I just couldn't make it out there. But yeah, that was. Yeah, like I said, I like seeing all of these names that I know that, independent and up that are collaborating together. It makes me feel good because, it's like she was one of those people when she started out under her Scarlett Salem name. I said then that she was going to be an actress that people were going to know and people were going to remember. And she's getting to that point, so.
Right. I think there's a big difference between women in film or actors in film that are actually striving for an art form rather than TNA. And I understand there are little 14-year-old boys at home masturbating to their favorite scream queen. Okay? I just told little boys I know. I'm sorry. He's going to say something mean now. Let's get over it. I think that women and scripts are getting more and more about the context of the story.
Yes.
Rather than, should I play like, you're not going to see me play myself in my films.
Right.
So, Sarah's an actor. I think that, and I think what you're trying to say, is how great it is to see an ensemble cast.
Yes.
Okay, so we're seeing more and more of these really, like, Michael's little short that I was in is definitely an ensemble cast. And we have people that are really striving for their art. I think that's so incredibly important. Instead of everybody's a star on social media. That's not true.
Now,
I think it should really stop, but it won't stop. I think it's going to be a difference in quality is what you're going to see, and then everything else will sort of drop away.
Yeah. Now, well, no. I think that you're right, and I know that you've been filming recently. I wanted to ask you real quick about the Mangled because again, I'm looking at this list. Bill Moseley.
We haven't started. Bill Moseley, yeah. What we did was we were going to do the Mangled first, and then we chose to do You Found Me, which became Beach Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
The title changed. So that's Lawrence Nelson, who is an incredible screenwriter, by the way. I mean, there's some really great writers out there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I really don't know what the status is yet of the Mangled. I'm hoping that film will probably be made.
I hope so. I mean,
that's the first one.
Right now, I mean, let's be honest. Bill's name is hot as hell right now because of him working on the new Rob Zombie project.
Rob Zombie. Mm-hmm. Right. Now, see, I consider Rob Zombie a derivative now. He becomes the new foundation. Now, these derivatives you and I are talking about go way back. Way back. There are dance, what is created today as opposed to created, 100 years ago.
Right.
We stand on derivatives. We stand on the steps of derivatives, and we create something new. And I believe that Rob Zombie has become one of our great foundations of the art form.
Holy shit. I wish I had you on last week's show because we talked about Rob Zombie because it was amazing to me when they announced 3 from Hell. How many... Yeah. It was like people threatening his life.
I know.
And
I know.
And I'm like you. I will scream from the rooftops that 20 to 30 years from now, Rob Zombie's name is going to come up as one of those cult directors, and everyone's going to love his films. I'm telling you.
Oh, he's like a Corman. You have to understand that that people like, and we're talking about genres now. Okay, so one of my favorite favorites, Reservoir Dogs was completely breakthrough. Rob Zombie, these are breakthroughs. These are taking your curve higher. They're taking our ideals. In other words, do we sticker paint or do we Jackson Pollock? And it's not the same thing, kids. You can call me and I'll explain it to you. Degree art history. So the thing about it is that the reason why I bring that up is that he has brought about a derivative that he made it his own, and therefore it becomes new. It is anachronistic. Everything we do, we have this incredible opportunity to create the thread that comes from that derivative, the foundation on which we stand, to an amazing new art form. And I think, Rob Zombie, you're absolutely right. It's like Lenny Bruce. They thought he was a demon, and now what? Lenny Bruce is a genius, right?
Right.
Okay, well, because we're idiots. Because we don't know how to grow. Some things that just are way too ahead of us.
Well, see, and I think that's the difference with people like you and I. It's I don't want the norm all the time. I'm looking for people that are trying to break out of the norm and expand the boundaries. And you're right, Rob is one of those people.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And to me, it's we will be looking back. I think, well, it's silly. We are looking back on it now. Anybody that isn't really needs to catch up. And I'm sorry, I hate to be such a intellectual proof. But, well, I'm not a proof. I'm just a bitch. Bitch. I'm a bitch scratching for art, man. That's how I'm doing. Help me.
I would be... We're really close to the end here, but I have to ask you about two films, one that came out this past year, one that is in pre-production, and that's the Meat Hook Massacre series. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with that?
My dear darling friend, Donna Hamlin, who is, again, she's worked with Jim DeVos, I love him. He's considered a surrealist in his art form. I would like, terrible to say, but I would like us all to get on the ball. Like, Lawrence went to film school.
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles screenwriting and film school. I think that everybody needs to, step up the game and get your chops. But anyway, Jim is a surrealist filmmaker, and Donna couldn't do the lead as Ma, which I think she would have been incredible as that lead. She recommended me. So everybody said okay, and I got the script, and I thought, this is amazing, but I'm not going to play Ma in a way that people like. So I'm not going to glam her up. I thought Deborah Dutch was incredible in Meat Hook too, because she was out of her mind in that role of Auntie Debbie. Was it Auntie Debbie? And she was crazy and great, and I just thought, wow, that had something. You wanted to see that scene. It was amazing. You should actually look it up and watch it.
I plan to.
Oh my gosh, she's crazy, and I love her. So I played Ma as devious and white trash, but with the background, I gave her this crazy story that, she actually maybe came from Virginia, from a good family, and then she would got talked into screwing a cousin or two.
Jeez.
Next thing you know, she's screwing everybody and eating everybody.
Wow.
And I think Ma is so misunderstood, poor Ma. But I am doing Meat Hook Massacre 4, and bringing Ma back again in a way that is very, I think she is resigned. Her character, Ma, she's resigned to her plight. She's nonplussed. She's absolutely scared to death of what has become of her son, and yet she's probably sexually attracted to him at the same time. I think that she has lost all humanity in her. charge. It's very weird. I think she's a very complex character.
Well, I definitely look forward to those. Now, before I let you go, what else do you have coming up? Is there anything you want to tell people about? Of course, we know about you going to the convention coming up. Say again?
I've been really bad. I'm sorry to everybody that writes me terrible letters later this month.
You weren't bad.
And I say a lot, and I hate that, and that shows you I need Toastmasters really bad. So what I do have is a book that I want to plug, and
Yes.
a book that I'm writing. Because, I had open heart surgery in December, and I had Crohn's disease, and I decided that I would do a photo shoot, which you've seen, with my scar.
Mm-hmm.
Because I figured art really does imitate life. So Ma is going to have this scar showing. So anyway, I have a book called My Life is Julia Roberts. It's on Amazon, and and I have a page on Facebook. You can click on it, and you can kind of see the twisted writing that I do. I have very dark humor, very dry, dark humor that is about living in LA and being in this industry and dating, you name it, it's in there. It's very funny, believe it or not, it's very funny. And I'm writing a new one called Trailer Park Yoga.
Oh, boy.
And it's about pretty much the same thing, but I had the heart surgery in there as well.
Now, I take it you've recovered well from your surgery and you're good to go?
Yeah, so I'm not sure when I'm doing Music Master 4. I want to remind everybody to please look up a Tahoe Anime Con. This is not just, anime. It's so many different things. It's the art of film, so there'll be like a festival of film shorts.
Oh, nice.
It's really, really cool. And Michael Rodriguez and his team from Avocado Lake and from the film I was in, the short, Terror at Station 13. We're all going to be there. It's going to be such a blast. And then I have a couple of films in the works, one in the fall called Cinema Incubus, which is an Andrew, sorry. Oh, God, Andrew, I'm so sorry. What does it say? It's not on my IMDb, it's on my Facebook, probably. But anyway, I will make it up. But that's a film that's sort of like Cinema Paradiso, but it's Andrew Hooper directed and wrote it. So I'll be doing that in the fall, and then I have a few other things that I'm doing, but we have to get everything organized.
Oh, I fully understand. No real spoilers on anything big.
No.
It doesn't matter. I know that when it comes out, you'll let me know, and I'll definitely get the news up on Morbidly Beautiful. You know that.
Yeah. And it's fantasy, horror, sci-fi, and anime and cosplay. It's this thing in Tahoe in May, AnimeCon 2018, is going to be really, really fun, and you can come meet me and threaten my life with saying things that about social media. Stars.
Now, we can't accept anyone threatens you. You're going to have to let me know, and then we'll have to go on the offensive.
I'm so sorry. But I really am. So there's a lot going on. So I'm very happy. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad. The more work that I can see you in and the more work that you're doing, I know, you're successful at it. You're good at it. Keep it up. I like to see people I know doing well, and you are definitely in that group. I can't thank you enough for coming on and talking about it, and you know that you're always welcome to come back on the show. And if you have news, like I said, don't hesitate to let me know. We can get it up on Morbidly Beautiful and spread the word.
Thank you so much, Michael, and I want to thank you definitely, for being the angel of horror. Because you guys are the ones who actually keep us, going. Because you promote horror, you love horror. we need you to do that. So thank you for everybody.
Anytime.
You know, yeah.
Anytime. I can't imagine doing anything else. And like I said, it's without people like you working in the industry, I don't get to do this. So the appreciation goes both ways.
Thank you so much, Michael. And it's the calling hours with MC Goodman.
Yes, it is.
Tune in and tune out.
And once again, I would like to say thank you to my guest, actress, producer, and author Liane Langford. She is really such a strong personality and individual in this genre, and I really think she is a good, shining example of what people looking to get into the industry should be looking at. Her ideas are very progressive. Her ideas on what Hollywood is becoming, what it needs to become, what our genre needs to do in order to survive and continue to be one of the stronger genres out there. Really, if you have a chance, go and check out any of her work, either as an actress, a producer, or as an author. Coming up in just a few moments, we're going to go into our final digital dismemberment of the evening, where we will be covering Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of Dead Souls. But before that, it's time for our final Metal Massacre Spotlight. The name of the band is Emperor. The CD is De Mysterious Dom Sanathus, and the song is Funeral Fog. And welcome back. You just heard the band Emperor. The name of the CD was De Mysterious Dom Sathanas, and the song was Funeral Fog. Emperor is a Norwegian black metal band that was formed in 1991, regarded as highly influential by critics and emerging black metal bands. To find out more about when they're touring, how to pick up their merchandise and their CDs, make sure to head on over to www.facebook.com/Emperor Official. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our final digital dismemberment. And in our final digital dismemberment spotlight for the evening, we are covering Scream Factory's Blu-ray and DVD release of Dead Souls. Now, the film was directed by Colin Thays. It was produced by Stephen Adams, Bonnie Farley Lucas, Andrew Gernhard, Richard J. Lucas, Shane O'Brien, Zach O'Brien, Kevin Shea, Justin Smith, Thomas P. Vitale, and Greg White. Special effects were handled by Steve Sadarin, Brian Spears, and Jackie Zabuska. The cast includes Jesse James, Bill Moseley, Magda Apanakowicz, Noah Fleiss, Jaden Kane, and Geraldine Hughes. It was released by Scream Factory in 2013. To give you the premise, on his 18th birthday, Johnny Petrie learns he was adopted when he inherits a farm in Maine. Eager for a new life, he leaves home to start over in this new dwelling. But soon he learns that the farm, abandoned for the 18 years since his natural family died, has a horrifying history. As he digs into his past, he discovers the grisly details of his family's deaths and the questionable teachings of his father, who had been the local preacher. He also discovers that decades-old forces trapped in the home have revived and set into motion a heart-stopping ritual prompted by his return to the fold. And from here out, just so you know, there will be spoilers. Ghost and possession films have long been a staple of the horror industry, but very few in recent years have been able to hold a candle to such classics as Poltergeist, The Shining, The Lady in White, The Sixth Sense, or The Grudge. While Dead Souls is not an instant classic, it is a step up from such modern genre ghost films such as Paranormal Activity, Insidious, and The Woman in Black. In fact, Dead Souls belongs in a double screening alongside Main Entertainment's Compound Fracture as an example of the right way to handle ghosts and their wrath. Creepy locations and a well-selected class of actors, including the awesome Bill Moseley in a cameo role, help to propel the story along, and the script writing is tight enough to keep the film from becoming a rambling mess. The vast majority of the effects work is practical as well, which helps to keep the suspension of disbelief high while watching the film. Will be considered an underrated film for a while, but if director Colin Thays continues to make genre films of this caliber, this is a film that may not be considered an all-time classic, but will be looked back on fondly for its uniqueness and stirring atmosphere. Now, the film starts off on a chilling tone as we open on a young man swinging quickly flashlight through a farmhouse to see a family going about their daily business. As the scene falls to night, we see the father working in the barn until he snaps and goes into the yard and brutally murders the family dog with a shovel before going into the house and drowning his wife in the toilet and slitting his daughter's throat with a butcher knife. The young boy tries to escape with a baby, but before he can, he is caught by the father and has his head caved in. He manages to hide the baby before any harm can come to it. The father takes all of the bodies to the barn and crucifies the corpses and himself on homemade crosses, even managing to impale himself upon one before the police show up. Cut to 17 years later. We see Johnny living with his ultra-religious mother. While cleaning the house, he finds an envelope addressed to him and finds out that he has a will that was given to him. His mother is very much against him going to the town and the house, and actually has to be put in the hospital after fainting. Deciding to take a chance, Johnny decides to meet with the real estate agent and see the house for himself. Not receiving a friendly welcome upon arriving in town, he is shocked to find out that the house and property are worth a good deal of money. He asks to stay the night at the house and wants to know more about his family. The real estate agent relents and lets him stay at the house. Johnny is surprised to see that there is a young woman squatting in the house named Emma. There seems to be an odd connection between the two, and odd circumstances that both of them experience draws them closer together as they try to find out the mysteries of the house and of his family. Strange animals and people show up at the house, including Bill Moseley in a great cameo role. Johnny and Emma begin to put together the gruesome pieces of his family's history, even finding an odd drawing under one of the rugs in the living room. Johnny begins flashing back to events in the family history, seeing that his family was taking place in a ritual that would allow all of them to be together after death. The ghosts begin to make themselves more visible to the both of them, even leading Johnny to his father's study, where he finds all kinds of odd books that contain the image in the living room on the floor. Different people Johnny has met since he gets to town start dying, and the mayhem really begins. Will Johnny get all of the answers to what his family did, and can he and Emma escape before the ghosts complete the ritual? You're going to have to watch to find out. Now, bonus features on this disc include an audio commentary with director Colin Thays, screenwriter John Doolin, and producer Andrew Gernhard. There's a blooper reel with a runtime of 7 minutes 30 seconds that shows various reshoots and takes from the film. This really shows you why you don't ever want to work with animals if you can help it. There's also a set tour. Now this runs about 6 minutes. Director Colin Thays takes us on a tour of the set of Dead Souls. One of the most important aspects of the feature is that it shows you the true state of the house and what a great job they did making you believe it was fully intact and undamaged. There's also TV spots, 5 different TV spots for the film's original run on the Chiller Network. This is a 1-disc set in NTSC format. It is color and R-rated. The aspect ratio is a 1080p high-definition widescreen, 178:1. Now this time around, Shout and Scream Factory has brought us something new to DVD, an original film. As in the past, they have paid careful attention to the transfer of the film, and the audio quality is top-notch. Dead Souls was a Chiller original film, so there were cuts made to show it on the channel. Shout and Scream Factory have reinserted 7 minutes of footage not in the original TV version, and if the gore scenes are any indication, job well done. The commentary with director Scott Thays, screenwriter John Doolin, and producer Andrew Gernhard is fun and informative to listen to, and the inclusion of the tour set and bloopers really helped to convey the mood of the set and what a great job they did filming the location. The only drawback to this disc is the lack of any inclusion of interviews with the cast and crew. While I understand that this is a newer film, I feel that this is a strong element that Shout Scream Factory brings to its releases and maybe would have brought more depth to the release. Other than that, this is another very strong effort on bringing us original content and another beautiful disc. Overall, I give the movie a 3.5 out of 5. I give the Blu-ray a 6 out of 10. Make sure to head on over to shoutfactory.com to pick up your Blu-ray and DVD copy of Dead Souls. Well, I think we had another absolutely fantastic episode this evening. Again, I would like to say thank you to my guest, actress, producer, and author, Liane Langford. She's always welcome on this show. She knows that, and we will be hearing more from her in the near future. I would also like to say thank you to Scream Factory for sending us our Blu-ray releases of Q the Winged Serpent, as well as Dead Souls. I would also like to say thank you to the 3 bands that we highlighted in our Metal Massacre Spotlights this evening: Agathodaimon, Witty, and Emperor. And don't forget that to tune in on Friday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 7 p.m. Pacific on milehighradio.com, as the Calling Hours Horror Podcast is in national and international syndication. So if you can't catch us on Tuesday nights, you can damn sure catch us on Friday nights. And until next week, ladies and gentlemen, this is your host, your head undertaker, the dead man Michael Jones of morbidlybeautiful.com, Coughing Cuties magazine, and Digital Dead magazine, telling you all to rest in peace.